Captain Kim Tae-ho stood in the command center of Earth's final orbital defense station and watched the enemy ships get closer on his screen. The alien vessels looked like giant metal spiders with glowing red eyes, and they had been destroying human colonies for 3 weeks now. Mars was gone, Jupiter mining stations were burning wreckage floating in space, and now they were coming for Earth. The command center shook as another enemy plasma blast hit their shields. Lieutenant Park So-min worked frantically at her control panel trying to keep their systems running. Her hands moved quickly over the buttons and switches while sweat dripped down her face. The station was falling apart around them, but she kept working. Tae-ho looked at the tactical display and felt his heart sink. The enemy had over 5,000 ships, and they were all heading straight for Earth. The human defense fleet had maybe 300 vessels left, and most of them were damaged. The aliens had better weapons, better shields, and seemed to enjoy destroying everything in their path. Communications Officer Lee Min-ho turned to face his captain. "Sir, we just lost contact with the Luna base. The enemy destroyed it completely. There are no survivors." Tae-ho closed his eyes for a moment and thought about his wife and daughter, who were on one of the evacuation ships heading away from Earth. He hoped they would make it to safety, but he knew the aliens would probably hunt them down. These creatures seemed to hate humans with a passion that burned hotter than any star. The station shook again, and this time the lights flickered. Several crew members grabbed onto their chairs to keep from falling. The enemy was getting closer, and their weapons were getting more accurate. Soon they would break through the station's defenses, and then Earth would be defenseless. So-min looked up from her controls. "Captain, the quantum transmitter is ready. We can send one message before they destroy us. It will reach every part of the galaxy, but we need to send it now." Tae-ho nodded and walked to the transmission console. He had been thinking about what to say for the past hour. How do you ask for help when you don't even know if anyone out there cares about humans? Most alien species they had met were either hostile or indifferent. Maybe there was someone out there who would help, but probably not. The captain began typing his message slowly and carefully. This might be the last thing any human ever said to the galaxy, and he wanted to get it right. He thought about all the people who had died in this war, all the children who would never grow up, all the dreams that had been destroyed by these alien invaders. "This is Captain Kim Tae-ho of the Terran Defense Force." He typed, "Our planet Earth is under attack by an unknown alien species. They call themselves the Hegemony, and they have been destroying our colonies for weeks. We are not a warlike people. We only wanted to explore space and make friends with other species." He paused and looked around the command center. His crew was still working, even though they all knew they were going to die soon. These people had volunteered to stay behind and send this message while the evacuation ships carried civilians to safety. They were heroes, and they deserved to be remembered. "The enemy has superior technology and numbers," he continued typing. "We cannot stop them alone. Our defense fleet is almost destroyed, and Earth will fall within hours. We are requesting immediate assistance from any friendly civilizations out there. We know this is a lot to ask, but we are desperate." Another explosion rocked the station, and this time the artificial gravity failed. For a few seconds everyone floated in the air until the backup systems kicked in. The enemy ships were now so close that he could see them through the observation windows. They looked even more terrifying up close. "We are peaceful people who only want to survive," Tae-ho typed quickly. "The Hegemony is killing innocent civilians, including children. They seem to enjoy causing suffering and pain. If they destroy us, they will probably move on to attack other worlds. Please help us if you can. We will be grateful for any assistance." The station shuddered as enemy boarding pods slammed into the hull. The aliens were coming aboard, and the crew didn't have much time left. Security Chief Yoon Jae-sung ran into the command center with his rifle ready. "Captain, they are breaking through the main airlock. We can hold them for maybe 10 minutes." Tae-ho looked at his message one more time and then added a final line. "This may be the last transmission from Earth. If anyone receives this, please remember that we tried to be good neighbors in this galaxy. We never wanted to hurt anyone. We just wanted to live in peace." He hit the send button and watched as the quantum transmitter powered up. The message shot into space faster than light, traveling to every corner of the galaxy in seconds. It was done. Now all they could do was wait and hope that someone out there would care enough to help. So-min grabbed her sidearm and stood next to her captain. "Sir, it has been an honor serving with you." "Same honor was mine," Tae-ho replied. The sound of laser Fire echoed through the corridors as the aliens fought their way toward the command center. What the humans did not know was that their message was traveling through space toward receivers that had been waiting for exactly this kind of call in. The dark corners of the galaxy ancient warriors were stirring from their long sleep. These were humans too, but they had been changed by war and technology into something far more dangerous. The message reached a hidden space station orbiting inside a dying star's corona. The station had been silent for over 300 years, but now its computers were waking up. Systems that had been dormant for centuries suddenly came online and began processing the desperate plea from Earth. Deep in the station's core, a figure opened glowing red eyes. Commander Kang Hyun-woo had been sleeping for 312 years, but the message from his homeworld had awakened him. He was human once, but now he was something more, something that the galaxy had learned to fear. The message continued traveling through space, reaching other hidden bases and secret outposts. Everywhere it went, the same thing happened. Ancient warriors were waking up. Ships that had been mothballed for centuries were powering up. The deadliest fleet in galactic history was stirring to life back. On the defense station, Captain Kim Tae-ho and his crew made their final stand against the alien boarders. They fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, his people fell until only he remained standing in the command center. The alien commander entered the room and looked at the human captain with contempt. "Your species is weak," it said in broken human language. "You will all die and we will take your world." Tae-ho smiled, despite his wounds. "Maybe," he said, "but our message got through. Someone out there heard us, and maybe they will come." The alien laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Your message traveled to empty space no one cares about. Your pathetic species." The alien was wrong. In the depths of space, the most feared warriors in the galaxy were already moving toward Earth. The Crimson Fleet was coming home. The message from Earth traveled through the dark void of space for 18 hours before it reached the edge of the galaxy where something impossible waited. A massive space station hung in the corona of a dying red star, completely hidden from any sensors. The station was called the Crimson Fortress, and it had been silent for over 3 centuries. Inside the station, thousands of hibernation pods lined the walls like sleeping giants. Each pod contained a warrior who had once been human, but was now something far more dangerous. These were the survivors of humanity's first contact with hostile aliens 300 years ago, when Earth had almost been destroyed. Commander Kang Hyun-woo was the first to wake up. His cybernetic implants glowed bright red as his consciousness returned to his enhanced body. He had been human once, a simple soldier from Seoul, but that was before the experiments, before the war that changed everything. The hibernation fluid drained from his pod, and he stepped onto the cold metal floor. The station's artificial intelligence spoke in a voice that sounded almost human. "Commander, you have been asleep for 312 years. I have received a distress signal from Earth." Hyun-woo flexed his mechanical fingers and felt the power coursing through his enhanced muscles. "Show me the message," he said. The holographic display showed Captain Kim Tae-ho's desperate plea for help. Hyun-woo watched the entire transmission and felt something he had not experienced in centuries: anger that burned like molten metal in his chest. Earth was under attack again, and this time they had no one to protect them. "Wake the others," he commanded. All of them, one by one, the hibernation pods began to open. Steam poured from each chamber as the enhanced warriors emerged from their long sleep. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were humans who had volunteered for experimental procedures that turned them into living weapons. They had given up their humanity to protect the very people who feared them. Lieutenant Colonel Lee Da-yoon was the second to wake up. She had been the fleet's tactical genius before the Great Sleep, and her mind was still sharp despite the centuries of hibernation. Her cybernetic eye glowed blue as she analyzed the tactical data about the hegemony invasion. "Commander, the enemy force is massive," she reported. "They have over 5,000 ships, and they are using weapons we have never seen before, but their tactics are predictable. They rely on overwhelming numbers rather than strategy." Captain Yu Jin-ho emerged from his pod and immediately began checking his weapons. His body was more machine than human now, with armor plating grafted directly onto his bones and weapon systems built into his arms. He had been a fighter pilot before the enhancement, but now he was something that could survive in the vacuum of space. How Long until we can launch, Jinho asked. The engineering teams are already working on bringing the ships. Online, replied Chief Engineer Park Hae-jin. Her cybernetic implants allowed her to interface directly with the station's computers, and she was already coordinating the massive effort to wake up the Crimson Fleet. The hangar bays of the Crimson Fortress were enormous caverns that stretched for kilometers. Each bay contained dozens of warships that had been built for one purpose: total destruction. These were not the sleek vessels of exploration or peaceful trade. These were ships of war designed by warriors who understood that sometimes violence was the only language that enemies understood. The flagship of the fleet was the Dreadnought Soul's Vengeance, a massive vessel that could destroy entire planets if necessary. Its hull was painted deep crimson with Korean writing that declared it as humanity's sword of justice. The ship had been constructed using technology stolen from defeated enemies and powered by fusion reactors that burned hotter than most stars throughout the station. Thousands of enhanced warriors were waking up and preparing for battle. They moved with perfect coordination like parts of a single organism. Each warrior knew their role and their purpose. They had been created to fight battles that normal humans could not survive. Navigator Oh Min-ji stood at the tactical display, plotting courses to Earth. Her enhanced brain could calculate hyperspace jumps that would take most computers hours to process. She had been a mathematics professor before the war, but now she was responsible for guiding the deadliest fleet in the galaxy. The enemy has a 3-day head start, she reported, but if we push our engines to maximum, we can reach Earth in 36 hours. The problem is that we will arrive after the planet has. Fallen Wu studied the star charts and felt his tactical mind working through the possibilities. We are not going straight to Earth, he decided. We are going to hit every hegemony base between here and our homeworld. It is time to announce our return. The other commanders looked at him with understanding. They had all been waiting for this moment for over 3 centuries. The chance to prove that humanity's greatest defenders were still alive and still deadly. The first target was a hegemony supply depot in the Altair system. It was a massive facility that provided fuel and ammunition for the invasion fleet. The aliens had built it far from any inhabited worlds, thinking it would be safe from attack. They had never imagined that anyone would be crazy enough to assault such a heavily defended position, but the Crimson Fleet had been built for impossible missions. The warriors aboard those ships had been created to do what normal humans could not do. They had been designed to win battles that should have been unwinnable. As the ships powered up their engines, the space around the dying star filled with crimson light. The Crimson Fleet was awakening after centuries of sleep, and the galaxy was about to remember why they had once been the most feared force in known space communications. Officer Kim Soo-jin opened channels to every ship in the fleet. This is the Crimson Fortress. To all vessels, prepare for immediate departure. We are going home. The words sent a chill through every warrior in the fleet. They had been exiled from Earth for being too dangerous to live among normal humans, but Earth was still their home, and someone was threatening it. That was something the Crimson Fleet could never allow. The massive ships began to move slowly at first, but building speed as their engines reached full power. They formed into battle formation with the Soul's Vengeance leading the way. Behind them came hundreds of cruisers, destroyers, and fighters, each one crewed by enhanced warriors who had been waiting centuries for this moment. As the fleet entered hyperspace, Han-woo stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the stars one last time before they disappeared into the swirling tunnel of faster-than-light travel. Earth had called for help, and the galaxy's deadliest fleet was answering that call. The hegemony had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked humanity's homeworld, not knowing that humanity's most dangerous children were still alive and still protecting their family from the shadows. The aliens were about to learn why the Crimson Fleet had become a legend whispered in fear across the galaxy. The hunt was about to begin. The hegemony supply depot at Altair 7 was a massive structure that floated in the void between 2 dead planets. The aliens had built it to be impregnable with shield generators that could withstand the blast of a nova and defensive weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The facility supplied fuel, weapons, and ammunition to over 1,000 hegemony ships. Admiral Vex of the Hegemony 3rd Fleet was reviewing supply reports when his tactical officer burst into his command chamber. Admiral, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace unknown vessels approaching at high speed Vex. Looked at the display and felt confusion wash over him. The attacking ships were unlike anything in the hegemony database. They were sleek and deadly, painted in deep red with strange markings on their hulls. There were only 50 of them compared to his 300 defenders, but something about them made his scales crawl with fear. The lead vessel was enormous, a dreadnought that dwarfed even his flagship as he watched the enemy ships began to move in perfect formation like a school of predatory fish. They accelerated toward his position with impossible speed and precision, open a channel to the lead ship Vex commanded. The main screen flickered and showed a figure that made Vex step backward in shock. It was humanoid but clearly enhanced with cybernetic implants that glowed red in the darkness. The creature's eyes held the cold stare of a professional killer. "This is Captain Yujin Ho of the Crimson Fleet," the figure said in a voice like grinding metal. "You have 30 seconds to surrender your facility and withdraw from this system." Vex tried to maintain his composure, but his voice shook slightly. "You are outnumbered 6-1. Human surrender now, and we might let you live." Jin Ho smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Vex had ever seen. "We are not here to win through numbers, alien. We are here to remind you why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The transmission ended, and within seconds the battle began. The Crimson Fleet ships moved like living things, dodging plasma blasts that should have vaporized them. Their weapons fired with deadly accuracy, turning hegemony cruisers into expanding clouds of debris. The Souls Vengeance led the attack, its massive guns tearing through the supply depot's shields like paper. The ship's hull was scarred from centuries of battle, but it moved with the grace of a dancer. Jin Ho stood on the bridge, directing his crew with hand signals, while his cybernetic implants calculated firing solutions faster than any computer. Commander Lee Diane commanded the tactical squadron, and her ships struck like surgical knives, cutting through the enemy formation. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to anticipate enemy movements before they happened. Her cruiser Dancing Blade spun through enemy fire while its weapons carved up 2 destroyers simultaneously. The hegemony defenders fought desperately, but they had never faced anything like the Crimson Fleet. These enhanced humans fought with a fury that bordered on madness. Their ships seemed to ignore the laws of physics, dodging attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. Lieutenant Commander Park Hae-jin piloted her fighter through the chaos of battle. Her enhanced body could withstand G-forces that would kill a normal human. She rolled her craft through a barrage of laser fire and launched her missiles at a hegemony battleship. The enemy vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The supply depot's defensive guns fired frantically, but the Crimson Fleet ships were too fast and too unpredictable. The enhanced warriors had been designed for this kind of combat. They moved with perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. Captain Song Mi-young led the bomber squadron in a direct assault on the depot's main reactor. Her ships flew through the station's superstructure, dodging defensive fire. While their pilots laughed with the joy of battle, these warriors had been asleep for 3 centuries, and they were hungry for action. The depot's shields collapsed under the concentrated fire of the Crimson Fleet. Admiral Vex watched in horror as his supposedly impregnable fortress began to come apart. His own flagship was taking heavy damage, and his crew was panicking. Retreat. He ordered all ships withdraw immediately, but the Crimson Fleet was not finished. The enhanced warriors had been waiting centuries for this moment, and they were not going to let their enemies escape easily. Jin Ho's voice echoed across all frequencies. "No one leaves. This is for every human who died while we slept." The hegemony ships tried to flee, but the Crimson Fleet was faster and more maneuverable. They hunted down the retreating vessels like wolves chasing sheep. Each enemy ship that tried to escape was destroyed by the enhanced warriors, who showed no mercy. Navigator Oh Min-ji coordinated the fleet's movements from the Soul's Vengeance. Her enhanced brain processed thousands of variables simultaneously, keeping track of every ship in the battle. She had been a professor once, but now she was a conductor of destruction. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, the Altair system was filled with the wreckage of hegemony ships. The supply depot was a twisted ruin floating in space, and the few surviving aliens had fled. Jin Ho stood on his bridge and looked at the destruction. With satisfaction, this was just the beginning. The Crimson Fleet had 4 more targets to hit before they reached Earth, and each battle would send a message to the galaxy. The enhanced warriors began salvaging useful technology from the wreckage. They had learned long ago that the best weapons came from defeated enemies. The hegemony had advanced shield technology that would be useful in the coming battles. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace again, Jin-Ho opened a channel to all ships. "This is just the first step," he announced. "Our homeworld is under attack, and we are going to make sure the galaxy remembers why they used to fear us." The Crimson Fleet ships formed up and prepared for their next jump. The warriors aboard those vessels had been created to fight impossible battles, and they were just getting started. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest defenders were also its most dangerous predators. In the depths of space, the enhanced warriors felt something they had not experienced in centuries: the pure joy of battle. They had been designed for war, and they were very good at it. The hegemony had made the mistake of attacking Earth without knowing that Earth's most dangerous children were still alive. The second target was a hegemony research facility where they had been experimenting on captured humans. The Crimson Fleet was going to shut down that operation permanently and rescue any survivors. The enhanced warriors had a special hatred for anyone who hurt innocent people. As the ships entered hyperspace, their crimson hulls glowed with the light of battle. The deadliest fleet in the galaxy was heading home, and nothing was going to stop them from protecting their family. High Admiral Vex of the Hegemony Fleet stood in his command chamber aboard the massive dreadnought Eternal Domination and tried to make sense of the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. In the past 18 hours, 7 forward bases had been completely destroyed, and the attacking force was unlike anything they had faced before. The tactical displays showed the aftermath of each battle: twisted wreckage floating in space defensive stations, reduced to glowing debris, and not a single enemy ship destroyed. The attackers had struck with surgical precision and overwhelming firepower, leaving no survivors to report on their capabilities. "Show me the sensor recordings from Altair 7. Vex commanded his intelligence officer. The holographic display showed the battle in horrifying detail. The enemy ships moved with impossible grace, dodging weapons fire that should have vaporized them. Their own weapons struck with devastating accuracy, turning hegemony cruisers into expanding clouds of gas. In seconds, intelligence officer Crix studied the data with growing concern. "Admiral, these ships are using technology we have never seen before. Their hull materials appear to be some kind of adaptive armor that redirects energy weapons. Their engines produce no detectable radiation signature." Vex watched the recording again and felt his blood turn cold. The enemy vessels were painted deep red with strange markings that his computers could not translate, but it was their movement patterns that truly disturbed him. These ships fought with a coordination that seemed impossible, as if they were all controlled by a single mind. "Have we identified the attackers yet?" Vex asked. Crix hesitated before answering. "Admiral, the markings on their hulls are in an ancient human language. Our databases indicate these ships belong to something called the Crimson Fleet, but that is impossible." "Why is it impossible?" "Because the Crimson Fleet disappeared over 3 centuries ago. They were human warriors who fought in the early expansion wars. Every military academy in the galaxy teaches about them, but only as historical curiosities. They were supposed to be extinct." Vex felt a chill run down his spine. The Crimson Fleet was not just ancient history. Every young officer learned about them in tactical school. They were the humans who had driven back the Zephyrian Empire when everyone thought humanity would be destroyed. They were warriors so dangerous that even their own people had feared them. "The records say they vanished after the Zephyrian War," Vex said quietly. "Most scholars believe they were just legends, sir. We have confirmed identities on several of the ships. Intelligence has matched hull markings to historical records." The lead vessel is the Soul's Vengeance flagship of Commander Kung Hyun-woo. The ship was thought destroyed 300 years ago. Vex studied the tactical data again and noticed something that made his stomach turn. The enemy fleet was not heading randomly through space. They were following a direct path toward Earth, hitting every hegemony installation along the way. It was as if they knew exactly where every base was located. "How many ships do they have?" Vex asked. "Current estimates put their force at approximately 500 vessels, sir. Most of them appear to be heavily modified with weapons and armor far beyond anything in our database's 500 ships. Against our fleet of 5,000, it should have been impossible for such a small force to cause this much damage, but the evidence was clear. The Crimson Fleet was cutting through hegemony defenses like a hot knife through ice. Incoming transmission from the lead enemy vessel, Crix announced. The main screen flickered and showed a figure that made Vex step backward in shock. It was humanoid, but clearly enhanced with cybernetic implants that glowed red in the darkness. The creature's face was partially mechanical, but the eyes were unmistakably human, cold, calculating, and filled with centuries of suppressed rage. "This is Commander Kang Hyun-woo of the Crimson Fleet," the figure said in a voice like grinding metal. "You have attacked our homeworld. You have made a grave mistake." Vex tried to maintain his composure, but his voice shook slightly. "You are outnumbered 10 to 1 human. Even if you are the legendary Crimson Fleet, you cannot defeat our entire invasion force." Hyun-woo smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Vex had ever seen. "We are not here to defeat your invasion force, alien. We are here to exterminate it. Every ship, every base, every trace of your presence in human space will be eliminated." The transmission continued, and Vex saw more of the enhanced warriors standing behind their commander. These were not the soft humans his forces had been fighting at Earth. These were something else entirely, weapons designed to look like people. Killers who had been shaped by war into living instruments of destruction. You have been attacking defenseless colonies and civilian transports, Hyun-woo said, his voice growing colder. "That ends now. We offer you one chance to withdraw from human space immediately and never return. What if we refuse?" Vex asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we will show you why the galaxy once trembled at our name." The commander's cybernetic implants flared brighter. "We have been sleeping for 3 centuries, but we have not forgotten how to wage war. Your species will serve as a reminder to others about what happens when you threaten humanity." The transmission ended, and within minutes, the hegemony's most powerful battle station was under attack. The Crimson Fleet ships appeared from hyperspace and began their assault with mechanical precision. The station's shields lasted less than 5 minutes before they were overwhelmed. Vex watched the battle through sensor feeds and felt despair wash over him. The enemy ships moved like living things, their weapons tearing through his defenses with contemptuous ease. The enhanced warriors fought with a fury that bordered on madness, but their tactics were perfect. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," Vex ordered. "Priority Alpha. We are dealing with the Crimson Fleet. Recommend immediate withdrawal from human space, sir. That would mean abandoning the Earth invasion. The conquest has been planned for years." "The conquest is over," Vex said quietly. "These are not the humans we expected to fight. These are the ones who destroyed the Zephyrian Empire and drove the Korth Syndicate to extinction. We are fighting legends, and legends do not lose." The battle for the station continued for another hour before the facility was completely destroyed. The Crimson Fleet ships regrouped and prepared for their next jump, leaving nothing but wreckage behind them. Vex knew they were heading for Earth, and he knew his invasion force would not be enough to stop them. The enhanced warriors had been designed for this kind of warfare. They had been created to fight battles that normal humans could not survive. The hegemony had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked humanity's homeworld without knowing that humanity's most dangerous children were still alive and still protecting their family from the shadows. The aliens were about to learn why the Crimson Fleet had become a legend whispered in fear across the galaxy as reports of more destroyed bases flooded in. Vex realized that his mighty invasion force was about to face something they had no chance of defeating. The Crimson Fleet was coming home, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. Admiral Choi Sung-min stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force cruiser Last Hope and watched the hegemony fleet prepare for their final assault. The alien ships had been pounding Earth's defenses for 3 days, and now they were closing in for the kill. The planet's orbital stations were destroyed, the lunar bases were smoking ruins, and the defense fleet was down to less than 50 ships. The tactical display showed the grim reality. 5,000 enemy vessels surrounded Earth like a swarm of angry insects. Their weapons had been systematically destroying everything humanity had built in space. The evacuation ships had managed to get most of the civilians away, but millions of people were still trapped on the surface. "Sir, we Are receiving multiple distress signals from the Surface Communications Officer Kim Hae-jin reported. The enemy is beginning orbital bombardment of Major City. Sung Min felt his heart break as he watched the alien ships rain destruction on his homeworld. He had been fighting for 3 days straight and his crew was exhausted. They had done everything they could, but it was not enough. The hegemony was too powerful and too numerous. All ships prepare for final assault, he ordered. We will make them pay for every mile of space. The remaining Earth Defense Force vessels formed up around the Last Hope. They were battered and running low on ammunition, but they were not going to give up. Their home was under attack and they would fight to the last ship. Captain Nam Yuna commanded the destroyer. Seoul's pride, and her voice crackled over the radio. Admiral, it has been an honor serving with you. Same honor was mine, Sung Min replied. All ships attacked the small human fleet charged toward the massive hegemony formation. It was a hopeless gesture, but they had to try. Their weapons fired desperately at the alien ships, but the enemy shields absorbed the damage easily. The humans were like insects trying to fight elephants. Then something impossible happened. The hegemony fleet suddenly stopped firing. Their ships began to scatter in apparent panic. Enemy vessels that had been pressing forward in attack formation suddenly reversed course and tried to retreat. What is happening? Sung Min asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Park Jun-ho studied his sensors with confusion. Sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures dropping out of hyperspace. Unknown vessels approaching at high speed. Main screen lit up with an image that made Sung Min's heart race. Hundreds of ships were emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. These were not the desperate jury-rigged vessels of Earth's defense fleet. These were ships of war built for one purpose: total destruction. The lead vessel was enormous, a dreadnought that dwarfed even the largest hegemony battleships. Its hull was painted deep red with Korean writing that declared it as Seoul's vengeance. The ship moved with deadly grace, its weapons already charging for battle. This is the Crimson Fleet, came a voice over the radio. Earth Defense Force, please stand down. We will take it from here. Sung Min stared at the display in amazement. He had heard stories about the Crimson Fleet as a child, but everyone said they were just legends, enhanced human warriors who had fought in the early space wars before disappearing into the void. Sir, the new vessels are broadcasting identification codes. They are human, but not in our database. These ships were built over 3 centuries ago. The Crimson Fleet ships moved into attack formation, and what followed was not a battle but a massacre. The hegemony vessels that had been terrorizing Earth's defenders for days were cut down like wheat before the scythe. The enhanced warriors fought with mechanical precision, their weapons turning alien dreadnoughts into clouds of glowing gas. Captain Song Mi-young led a squadron of Crimson Fleet fighters through the enemy formation. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to dodge enemy fire, while her weapons found their targets with deadly accuracy. This is for every human who died while we slept, she whispered into her radio. The flagship Seoul's Vengeance moved through the battle like a force of nature. Commander Kong Hyun-woo stood on the bridge, directing his crew with hand signals while his cybernetic implants calculated firing solutions. His ship's main guns fired in perfect rhythm, each shot destroying an enemy vessel. Lieutenant Colonel Lee De-yoon commanded the tactical squadron, and her ship struck like surgical knives. Her cruiser dancing blades spun through enemy formations while its weapons carved up multiple targets simultaneously. The enhanced warriors had been designed for this kind of combat, and they were very good at it. On the surface of Earth, billions of people watched in amazement as the tide of battle turned completely. The alien ships that had seemed unstoppable were fleeing in panic, their vessels burning as they tried to escape into hyperspace. Hegemony Fleet tried to regroup, but the Crimson Fleet was relentless. The enhanced warriors had been waiting centuries for this moment, and they were not going to let their enemies escape. Captain Yu Jin-ho's voice echoed across all frequencies. No one leaves. This is for every human colony you destroyed. The battle continued for 6 hours as the Crimson Fleet systematically destroyed or drove off the hegemony invasion force. The enhanced warriors showed no mercy. Their ships moved with perfect coordination, hunting down fleeing enemies like wolves chasing sheep. High Admiral Vex tried to coordinate his forces from his flagship, but it was hopeless. The Crimson Fleet ships were too fast, too maneuverable, and too heavily armed. His mighty invasion force was being destroyed by an enemy that fought like demons. Fall back to the outer system. He ordered all ships retreat immediately, but the Crimson Fleet was not finished. Commander Heian-Wu's voice came over the radio, speaking directly to Vex. You attacked our home alien. That was a mistake. You will not live to repeat that. Soul's Vengeance pursued Vex's flagship through the asteroid belt. The Hegemony Dreadnought was faster, but the enhanced warriors were more skilled. The battle ended when the alien ship tried to hide behind a large asteroid, and the Crimson Fleet ship simply blasted through the rock to reach its target. By the end of the day, the Hegemony Fleet was either destroyed or in full retreat. Earth was safe, but the enhanced warriors were just getting started. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest defenders were also its most dangerous predators. Men received a transmission from the Crimson Fleet flagship admiral. This is Commander Kang Heian-Wu. We need to talk. The two fleets met in the space between Earth and Mars. Representatives from both sides gathered aboard the neutral station. New Seoul, the Earth Defense Force officers found themselves facing warriors who were technically human but looked like something from a nightmare. Commander Heian-Wu removed his helmet, revealing a face that was both human and mechanical. Who are you? Some men asked. Where did you come from? We are your descendants. Admiral Heian-Wu replied. We are the humans who were too dangerous to come home. The meeting took place aboard the space station New Seoul in the neutral zone between Earth and Mars. Admiral Choi Sung-min found himself sitting across from warriors who were technically human but looked like something from his worst nightmares. Their cybernetic enhancements glowed with alien technology, and their eyes held the cold stare of professional killers. Commander Kang Heian-Wu sat at the head of the table, his mechanical fingers drumming against the metal surface. His face was a patchwork of human flesh and cybernetic implants that pulsed with red light. The other Crimson Fleet officers were similarly enhanced, each one a living weapon designed for war. Admiral, I know you have questions, Heian-Wu said in a voice that sounded like grinding metal, so let me tell you a story about what happened to humanity 3 centuries ago. Sung-min leaned forward, eager to understand who these warriors were and where they had come from. The official records said the Crimson Fleet had been destroyed in the Zephyrian War, but clearly that was not true. 300 years ago, when humanity first ventured into deep space, we encountered alien species that wanted to destroy us. Heian-Wu continued. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, and they saw humans as nothing more than pests to be eliminated. Lieutenant Colonel Lee Dae-yoon stepped forward, her cybernetic eye glowing blue as she accessed historical files. The Zephyrians had weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop our most powerful missiles. They were going to exterminate every human in the galaxy. Captain Yu Jin-ho removed his helmet, revealing a face that was more machine than human. The government knew we could not fight them with conventional forces, so they asked for volunteers for an experimental program enhancement surgery that would turn us into living weapons. We volunteered because we knew someone had to. Heian-Wu said quietly. The procedures were dangerous and painful. Many of us died on the operating tables, but those who survived became something new, something that could fight aliens on their own terms. Chief Engineer Park Hae-jin interfaced directly with the station's computer systems and brought up holographic displays showing the enhancement process. The images were disturbing, showing humans being transformed into cybernetic warriors with weapons grafted onto their bodies. The surgery replaced most of our organs with mechanical systems. She explained. Our bones were reinforced with alien metals, our brains were enhanced with quantum processors, our reflexes were increased beyond human limits. We became the Crimson Fleet, Heian-Wu said. The most dangerous military force in the galaxy. We drove back the Zephyrians and defeated the Korth Syndicate. We protected humanity from threats that would have destroyed our species, but there was a price, Sung-min said, quietly looking at the enhanced warriors. The price was our humanity, Jin-ho replied. We had become weapons, living instruments of destruction. People feared us, even the people we were protecting. The government decided we were too dangerous to return to normal societies, so we exiled ourselves. Heian-Wu said. We found a hidden station at the edge of the galaxy and went into hibernation. We promised to stay away from human space as long as humanity was safe. Navigator Minji stepped forward, her enhanced brain processing multiple data streams simultaneously. We have been watching From the shadows for 3 centuries, fighting threats before they could reach Earth, most of the alien species that might have attacked. You never got the chance because we eliminated them first. Sung Min felt a chill run down his spine. You have been protecting us this whole time, someone had to. Yun said, the galaxy is full of species that view humans as inferior. They would have attacked Earth decades ago if they had not been afraid of us, but you stayed hidden. Jinho added, because we knew that if people saw what we had become, they would be terrified. We chose to remain in exile to protect the very people who feared us. Shin Wu stood and walked to the observation window, looking out at Earth in the distance. When we received your distress signal, we knew we had to reveal ourselves. The hegemony was too large for your defense forces to handle alone. What happens now? Sung Min asked. Now we hunt down every hegemony ship in the galaxy. Hein Wu replied, we make sure they never threaten Earth again. We will also deal with any other species that might get ideas about attacking humanity, and after that we will probably have to disappear again. The galaxy is not ready for what we have become. We are humanity's greatest defenders, but we are also its most dangerous children. The enhanced warriors began to file out of the meeting room, preparing to return to their ships. The Crimson Fleet had work to do. The hegemony still had bases scattered across the galaxy, and they all needed to be eliminated. Commander Hyun Woo paused at the door and looked back at Admiral Sung Min. Tell the people of Earth that they are safe now. We will make sure no one threatens our home again, but do not tell them the full truth about us. Let them think we are heroes who return from the dead. It is better than knowing what we really are. The Crimson Fleet ships prepared to depart for their next mission. They would spend the next several years hunting down every trace of the hegemony in the galaxy. The enhanced warriors would fight battles that normal humans could not survive, and they would win because that was what they had been designed to do. Earth. The news broadcast spoke of humanity's miraculous salvation by the legendary Crimson Fleet. The people celebrated their heroes who had returned from the void to save them. They did not know the full truth about what those heroes had become in the cold depths of space. The enhanced warriors continued their eternal vigil. They were humanity's sword and shield weapons designed to look like people. They protected a species that could never fully accept them because they understood that sometimes the price of peace was eternal war. The SOS had been answered, but the cost of salvation was the knowledge that humanity's greatest protectors were also its most terrifying creations. The Crimson Fleet would continue to guard the darkness between stars, keeping threats away from Earth. They did it because they remembered what it meant to be human. Even though they were no longer entirely human themselves, they were the children of Earth who had sacrificed everything to protect their family, and they would continue that sacrifice for as long as the galaxy needed them. The message from Captain Kim Tae-ho had reached the right people. The deadliest fleet in the galaxy had answered humanity's call, and Earth was safe. But the real victory was not just military. The real victory was the knowledge that even in the darkest corners of space there were still humans watching over their home. The Crimson Fleet would fade back into legend, but they would never truly disappear. Somewhere in the void, enhanced warriors would continue their mission, protecting a species that could never fully accept them because that was what it meant to be human.